Hi everybody, my name is Kala and I'm with Mission Citizen, and today I'm going to be teaching Lesson 8, which is on Geography and America Today. So as always, if you have not yet printed out your note sheet and your quiz and done your quiz, I'm going to just encourage you to go ahead and do that now. So you can find those materials on our website at www.missioncitizen.org. Just go to the Student Resources tab, scroll down till you find Lesson 8, click on Notes, click on Quiz, print those out, and then take the quiz based on either your notes from Lesson 7, or you can do it from memory if you want to challenge yourself. And so pause this video, do that, and once you have done that, unpause and I will get into the answers for the quiz, going over the information from Lesson 7. Okay, so now that you've paused it, you've done your quiz, you've got all that sorted, I'm going to get into the answers. So Lesson 7 was on American history, so we're just going to go over that information. So for question number 1, one war fought in the 1800s was the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, or the Spanish-American War. Any of those options works. Just need to remember one. You can do War of 1812 if you have trouble remembering which war goes in which century. You can't go wrong with that one. You've got the century in the name. Okay, for question number 2. The United States purchased the Louisiana Territory from France. For number 3, the Civil War was fought between the North and South of the United States. And number 4, one reason for the Civil War was slavery, economics, or states' rights. Moving on to question number 5. One thing Abraham Lincoln did was abolish slavery, or you could say get rid of or end slavery, save the Union, or lead the U.S. in the Civil War. Any of those answers is great, and you can also reword all of them. For number 6, one war fought in the 1900s was World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Persian Gulf War, which you can just call the Gulf War. So any of those for question number 6. And then for question number 7, our president during World War I was Woodrow Wilson. And finally for number 8, 3 nations the U.S. fought during World War II were Italy, Germany, and Japan. Okay, moving on to 9. Our president during World War II and the Great Depression was Franklin D. Roosevelt. President Eisenhower was a general in World War II. The U.S. was most concerned about communism during the Cold War. On September 11, 2001, terrorists attacked the Twin Towers or the World Trade Center in New York City. You can also just say terrorists attacked the U.S., and that is also a good enough answer. Okay, so now we are going to get into the new information. So now is the time to take out your note sheet and go ahead and fill in the information in bold onto the blanks of your note sheet. That is the information you will need to know for your naturalization interview. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at a map of the United States. Just looking at some basic geography. So the U.S. is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the east over here, and the Pacific Ocean to the west over here by us in Oregon. And then the bodies of water in the northern U.S. near Michigan are called the Great Lakes. And they're called Great Lakes basically just because there's some really huge lakes. They're just a significant landmark in this country. Okay, so two major U.S. rivers. So the two longest rivers in the U.S. are the Mississippi River, which is over here in red, and the Missouri River, which is over here in blue. So when you're remembering those longest rivers, you can just remember it's the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Okay, so now we're going to get into some states. So states that border Mexico, there are 4 of them. We have California right here below us in Oregon. And then next to that we have Arizona, and then we have New Mexico, and then Texas. So you're just going to need to remember one of those states. Maybe do California if you're familiar with it. If you have trouble remembering which ones border Mexico, New Mexico is a good one to remember. It's hard to forget that that borders Mexico based on the name. So just choose any of those, and then you're going to need to choose any of these states that border Canada. So you can do, okay, I probably don't know all of these, but I know this one is Maine. We've got New Hampshire and Vermont over here, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, North Dakota. Oh, this one's North Dakota. This one's Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Alaska. Was a real test of my geography knowledge. Yeah, so you just need to know any one of those states that border Canada. Washington might be easy to remember because it's right on top of Oregon. If you want to do Alaska, because it's like fully connected to Canada and not the rest of the continental United States, you could do that one. But any of these will work. For states that border Canada. Okay, the capital of the United States. The capital of the United States is over here in Washington, D.C. D.C. stands for the District of Columbia, and it is located between Maryland and Virginia. It doesn't have its own state. It's just kind of a weird geographic kind of anomaly in the United States. It's just its own district. And all 3 branches of the federal government are housed in D.C., the capital of our nation. Find the White House there, the Supreme Court, all that stuff. You can find where Congress is located in D.C. And then the capital of Oregon is Salem. This is where Oregon's state government operates. So it's just a little bit below Portland, about an hour away. And that building right there on the right is what our state legislative building looks like. So that's the Capitol. That's where Oregon legislators work. Okay, so the Statue of Liberty is an important landmark in the U.S. It's supposed to represent American values like freedom. It also contains a message about being open to immigration. So it used to actually mark the Ellis Island Immigration Center, which is where a lot of immigrants, mostly immigrants from Europe, would first come to the United States, and the first thing they would see was this figure of a woman holding up a torch and basically welcoming them into the country. So that is what that is supposed to symbolize. It was given to the US as a gift from France. Not really sure why France chose to do that, but they did, and it is now located on Liberty Island in the New York Harbor. So you don't need to know both Liberty Island and New York Harbor. You can just choose whichever one is easiest to remember. Liberty Island might be easier because, it's the Statue of Liberty, but either one, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, so moving into U.S. territories. So a territory is a piece of land that is under the authority of the U.S. government, but it is not a U.S. state. So territories are represented in our federal government in the sense that They have representatives who are members of Congress, but they cannot vote in Congress. So they don't actually have much true power to affect things in Congress, but they are there to advocate for the interests of their countries. And each of these countries do also have their own separate governments, of course, in their own borders, but they're just controlled by the U.S. to varying degrees. So U.S. territories include Guam, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. So I believe you just need one of those written down. Okay, moving on to Native Americans or Indigenous people, also called American Indians. So before European settlers colonized North America, Native American tribes had been living here for thousands of years, and today they have been displaced, and a lot of Native American populations have sharply declined due to colonization, due to things like battles between Native Americans and European settlers, some genocide that has been committed by European settlers against Native Americans, as well as diseases that wiped out large numbers of Native Americans that were brought over by the European settlers, and that the Native Americans' bodies were not used to or immune to or able to handle as the European people's bodies were. So some of these Native American tribes include the Cherokee, Navajo, Sioux, Chippewa, Choctaw, Pueblo, Apache, Iroquois, Creek, Blackfeet, Seminole, Cheyenne, Arawak, Shawnee, Mohegan, Huron, Oneida, Lakota, Crow, Teton, Hopi, and Inuit. So you're going to have to remember one of those tribes, whatever is easiest for you to remember. Maybe some of them sound familiar. Okay, so now that we have learned that information, we're going to get into a quiz to refresh your memory on what you just learned. So if you know the answer, you can just go ahead and call it out. You can write it down. You can think of it in your head, whatever way is best for you as I'm asking these questions. So we're going to start with, what ocean is on the east coast of the United States? The answer is the Atlantic Ocean. What ocean is on the west coast of the United States? The Pacific Ocean is on the west coast of the United States. Name one of the two longest rivers in the United States. So we have the two Misses, Missouri and Mississippi rivers. Name one state that borders Mexico. You have California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Name one state that borders California. There's a lot of them. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, North Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Alaska. Any one of those? Okay, what is the capital of the United States? The answer is Washington, D.C., or the District of Columbia. Make sure you don't just say Washington, because your interviewer might think you're talking about the state. What is the capital of Oregon? Capital of Oregon is Salem. Where is the Statue of Liberty? Find the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor or Liberty Island. And if you can't remember the harbor part, you can also just say New York, and that will be an acceptable answer. Name one U.S. territory. One U.S. territory would be Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, or Guam. Name one American Indian tribe in the United States. Okay, any of these. Cherokee, Navajo, Sioux, Chippewa, Choctaw, Pueblo, Apache, Iroquois, Creek, Blackfeet, Seminole, Cheyenne, Arawak, Shawnee, Mohegan, Huron, Oneida, Lakota, Crow, Teton, Hopi, or Inuit. Any of those. Okay, so now America Today. We're going to get into the second part of our new information. So first we'll start with the Selective Service. So the Selective Service is also known as the draft. It is a program in which the US government keeps files of all men in this country in case the military ever chooses to draft them for a war, so to force them to go fight in a war. So men are required to register for the Selective Service between the ages of 18 and 26. Okay, now let's get into voting. So American citizens, as we mentioned in our lesson on the executive branch, American citizens have to be 18 years or older on election day in order to vote for president. And in most states, you cannot vote if you have committed a felony or a serious crime. In some states, local governments allow non-citizens to vote in certain local elections. For example, maybe school board elections or city council elections. It's not super common, but that does happen in some areas of the country. The rationale for that is that non-citizens definitely have a stake in things like how schools are run, which the school board affects, or cities, and they should be able to affect those processes before they gain their citizenship and are able to vote in all elections. Okay, taxes. So as a citizen, you must continue to pay taxes. I'm sure you expected this one. Taxes allow the government to run smoothly and provide services like parks, roads, and education. And federal income tax forms are due on April 15th. So as of right now, time is ticking. It is April 8th. So that's pretty soon. What is that? 7 days, 1 week. And I'm convinced that they have this question on your naturalization interview just because they want to make sure you remember when your taxes are due. I don't really see what this date has to do with being a citizen, but they want you to know it so you get your taxes in on time. Okay, now on to something a little more fun than taxes, and that is the American flag. So on June 14th, 1777, the Continental Congress passed an act that established this as the official, or actually it didn't look like this at the time, but something like this, as the official flag for the United States. It originally had the 13 stripes, but it didn't have as many stars. The stars were in a circle in the original flag, and that is because the 50 stars currently represent what is now 50 states, while the 13 stripes represent the 13 original colonies. So when we had fewer than 50 states, there were fewer stars, and they were arranged a little differently. And that first flag was designed by a woman named Betsy Ross. Just a fun fact. Okay, so you just need to remember what the stars represent and what the stripes represent. So stars for states, stripes for colonies. Oh, I went back. Okay, Independence Day. So we celebrate Independence Day on the 4th of July or July 4th to commemorate and celebrate the Declaration of Independence and our independence from Britain. And as you see in the picture, it's pretty common to do fireworks on 4th of July, do barbecues, eat hot dogs, go to baseball games, all these classic American cultural things. So that's Independence Day. Then we have some American holidays. So obviously Americans celebrate a lot of other holidays beyond these, but these are just federal holidays that the federal government recognizes. So American holidays include New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, and in some places, like in Portland, they replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day because people have different beliefs on whether Columbus should be celebrated. So depending on where you live, but on a federal level, it's still known as Columbus Day. And then there's also Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So just whatever of those holidays are easiest for you to remember. Maybe New Year's and Christmas if you celebrate that, or New Year's and Thanksgiving. You could do Independence Day because you already have to know that one. Whatever you want. Okay, so our national anthem is called the Star-Spangled Banner, and we often sing the first verse of it at baseball games and other community events. People usually stand up and put their right hand on their heart in order to show respect for the flag. And here is the text of it right now. I won't sing it to you, I'll spare you from that, but you can look it up if you would like. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance. So the Pledge of Allegiance is a promise you make to be loyal to the United States or to the flag of the United States. And it goes like this. And as you see from this picture of a bunch of young children in a classroom over here, what you usually do when you do the Pledge of Allegiance is you put your right hand on your heart, like with the Star-Spangled Banner, and you turn towards the flag and look at it. So it goes like this. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So there is the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you know this first part of it, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, then you know the answer to the question about the Pledge of Allegiance that could come up on your naturalization interview. It is a promise to be loyal to the United States and to its flag. Okay, so now we're just going to do a quick quiz over that last chunk of the new information. So, when must all men register for the Selective Service? At age 18 or between age 18 and 26? How old do citizens have to be to vote for president? The answer is age 18 and older. When is the last day you can send in federal income tax forms? The answer is April 15th. Why does the flag have 13 stripes? It is because there were 13 original colonies. Because the stripes represent the original colonies. Could say it either way. Why does the flag have 50 stars? Because there is one star for each state. Or because each star represents a state. And you can also say because there are 50 states. Just different ways of saying the same meaning. Okay, when do we celebrate Independence Day? The answer is July 4th, the 4th of July. Name 2 American federal holidays. You could say New Year's, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, or Christmas. What is the name of the national anthem? This is kind of a quirky one. It is called the Star-Spangled Banner. Not really sure about this word spangled. We don't really use that one anymore, but that is the name of our national anthem. What do we show loyalty to when we say the Pledge of Allegiance? The answer could be the United States or the flag. Okay, so we have reached the end of our new information on Lesson 8, which means we have reached the end of all of the new information of this program, period. We only have 2 classes left. One of those classes is just kind of learning more about the format of the interview and doing some English practice. The next one is one you'll definitely want to be at in person. That is a chance to speak to an immigration lawyer as well as a practice interview. But first, we should finish off this lesson with our citizen tip. So this week our tip is to write an op-ed or a letter to the editor. Okay, so writing to a newspaper is a really good way to express your opinion about something you feel strongly about. So letters to the editor are usually short responses to something a newspaper recently published, maybe 250 words, like a paragraph, not long at all. And you can submit these to a newspaper if you read something that you want to respond to. There's usually a dedicated email account that you can submit them to. And if your letter to the editor is interesting and well written and it's about a timely subject, then the newspaper might publish it and other people might see it and take your thoughts into account. And if you would like to write a longer piece, you can write an op-ed. Op-eds don't necessarily have to be in response to a specific article. They should be relevant to current issues still, but they can just be more of a general expression of your beliefs on a current event or a current topic. So a good tip is to make the issue personal to you and finish with a demand or a call to action to make your op-ed really strong. And you submit it in the same way you would submit a letter to the editor. If the newspaper likes it, then they might publish it. And that could be a really great way to get your voice heard on a topic you care about. Okay, so now that we have finished with that citizen tip, if you have any questions, you can just send us an email at missioncitizen@gmail.com and we'll get back to you. But thank you for watching this lesson 8 on some random stuff about America and geography. See you next time.